Hey everybody, my name is John from Community Life Church, and this is Meals Ready to Eat from the Bible. We would really appreciate a like and subscribe. Hello, today's episode is Jesus Does Not Forget or Become Distracted. This is a story of a father who has a little girl who's sick, so the father turns to the only person who can help him. Okay, these events occur in Mark chapter 5, just after the story of Jesus going across the stormy sea to rescue a demon-possessed man. Then he comes back, and we pick up the story here. So we're going to be in Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 24, 35 through 36, and 44 to 42. So we're going to jump around just a little bit. So let's get that scripture up on the screen here and get to the right place. Hold on. 1 second, let's get to verse 21, and then you can read along with me as we go through this scripture. When Jesus had crossed over again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd, note the large crowd, gathered around him, and so he stayed by the seashore. One of the synagogue officials named Jairus came up on seeing him and fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her so that she will get well and live." And he went off with him, and a large crowd, note the large crowd again, were following him and pressing in on him. While he was speaking, there came from the house of the synagogue official, this is verse 35, we jump down a little bit, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher anymore?" But Jesus, overhearing him, what was being spoken, said to the official, "Do not be afraid any longer, only believe." Let's get that. I didn't have 35 up there. Let's get 35 up, and then we'll skip down to verse 41. Taking the child by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cum," which translated means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl got up and began to walk, for she was 12 years old. And immediately they were completely astounded. That's Mark 5:40-42. So there's three sections of scripture here. And in between these passages, there's a story of another healing, which we'll get to next week. Okay, so let's continue on. See what God is saying to us in this passage and what lessons he has for all of us here. So we have a father who had a daughter who was very, very sick, and he came and he begged Jesus for help. He implored him earnestly, it says. That means he begged Jesus. The man had nowhere else to go, no one else to appeal to, no one else to talk to about this. So Jesus agrees, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people around him, those crowds we mentioned before, and they're making all sorts of noise. In the meantime, Jesus stops and heals someone else before he can get to the little girl. Now, this is important. To everyone else, this looks like Jesus forgot, and in fact, when he had healed this other person, the little girl had died. We see this also in the story of Lazarus in the book of John, chapter 11, verses 1 through 44. It looks like Jesus forgot and got distracted. He did not, he does not, he never forgets you or me. He doesn't get distracted. It's not what happened. So people tried to stop him. They said to him, "Look, leave the master alone, leave the teacher alone. He's very busy," once they heard that the little girl had died. Jesus responded and said, "Look, get out of my way. I'm busy." He was eating the food that the Father had given him to do. He's doing the Father's will and work. And we see that in John chapter 4, 32 through 35 in the story of the woman at the well. Jesus is always doing his Father's will. He's about his Father's will. He's still on a mission, and he still wants to do what his Father wants him to do. So he didn't get distracted. He didn't forget. He's still going. He's still got this little girl in his mind, still has you and me in his mind as well. It's one of the important lessons from this passage. So Jesus replies by commanding the Father to only believe. This literally means to trust God absolutely. Jesus then lays his hands on her, and she's raised from the dead. So what happened? Jesus came to the little girl by his grace. Grace cannot be stopped, cannot be distracted, doesn't waver, doesn't get lost on the way. Grace is always coming after us. Her father trusted Jesus, which is what it means to believe. Trust absolutely, to live by faith. He was living by his faith. He had nothing else he could do. And she was raised by grace through faith. The girl's father's actions, in fact, are a good example of how we should live, how we can live, what we should live for. He knew no hope, but the hope provided by Jesus. He had no place to go but to Jesus. He had no one to trust and no place to put his trust in but in Jesus. We see in all the words describing the man's actions, we see this complete and total trust in Jesus. He's imploring, he's begging, he's falling at Jesus' feet saying, please come. This shows his total and complete trust again, and that's a good example for us. So, like this man, living by placing our total and complete trust in Jesus. That's what the example here is. That was to place our total and complete trust in Jesus, and because there is no place to go. This is how we're to live. This is how we're to live by faith. Trust in Jesus, put our hope in Jesus, put our reliance on Jesus, put our eyes on Jesus, fall down before him, implore him and beg him, but put everything on Jesus. This is the story of this man, and it's a good example for us. Thanks for watching. You can join us Sunday morning, 10:30 at 20 West Main Street, Catskill, New York. Can't make it? You can stream our services live on YouTube or Facebook, which you can find on our web at clchurch.cc. That's clchurch.cc. Don't forget to follow us throughout the week for devotions and times of sharing from leaders and staff. Leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you want. And thanks once again.